I didn't know that the Christmas my mother volunteered me for would end with my name typed into an official record instead of written on a babysitting schedule. The way she said it was so casual it almost slid past me, like background noise you don't realize you've absorbed until later. We were on the phone, her TV loud in the background, one of those holiday cooking shows where everybody's kitchen is too clean to be real. She said, "So you'll have the kids from the 23rd through New Year's. 6 of them. I already told everybody you got it." I remember staring at my laptop screen, a half-written work email blinking back at me, my coffee going cold on the desk. I said, "What kids?" even though I already knew. "My nieces, my cousin's toddlers, my sister's 2 boys. All under 10. 2 still in diapers." She laughed like I was being cute. "You know the kids. Everybody else is traveling. You're not doing anything like that." That sentence landed heavier than the rest. You're not doing anything like that. Like my life was a placeholder until someone needed it filled. Like the hours I billed, the deadlines I chased, the migraines I managed, none of that counted because it didn't involve a husband or a flight itinerary she could brag about at church. I said, "Ma, I have work. I have deadlines." And I didn't agree to this. There was a pause, just long enough for me to know I'd already lost the argument in her head. "You always help," she said. "This is family. Everybody's counting on you. Don't start acting brand new." Brand new. The Black family phrase that means stop having boundaries and get back in line. She kept talking, listing names, ages, allergies like she was reading off a grocery list. Peanut-free snacks. 1 kid gets carsick. The toddler only sleeps with a sound machine. I could hear dishes clanking in the background, my aunt probably pretending not to listen while catching every word like it was premium cable. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no either. I just let her talk until she ran out of breath and said, "I'll send you the drop-off times." When the call ended, my apartment felt too quiet. The hum of my fridge, the faint buzz of my phone charging, my satin scarf tossed over the back of the couch where I'd left it that morning. I sat there thinking about 6 kids in my space, my work laptop pushed aside for sippy cups and sticky fingers. I thought about what would happen if one of them fell, or got sick, or wandered out the door while I was on a call. I thought about how fast "thank you so much" turns into "why weren't you watching them" in this family. By the time my phone buzzed with the group text, my stomach was already tight. My mom, drop-off start Friday morning. Appreciate you, baby. Heart emojis followed. Prayer hands, like that made it official. Nobody asked if I was available. Nobody asked if I was okay with it. They just assigned me 6 little human liabilities and kept it moving. I texted my cousin back privately. "Did you know about this?" She responded with a laughing emoji. "Girl, Ma said you had it. You always come through. Always come through." Translation: you always absorb the mess so nobody else has to. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept running through scenarios in my head, each one ending with my name being the only one mentioned when something went wrong. I've always been the responsible one, the one who didn't have kids early, the one who had time, because my life didn't look chaotic enough to deserve protection. The next morning, I called in late to work and made another call instead. A local legal clinic I'd bookmarked months ago and never thought I'd use. I told the woman on the line what was happening, trying to sound casual even though my voice kept tightening. She asked one simple question that changed everything. "Did you consent in writing to be responsible for these children?" I said no. She paused. "Then you should know that if you accept them into your care without formal consent and something happens, you could still be held liable, especially if this is extended care." That word echoed. Liable. She explained it plainly. 6 kids, multiple households, no written agreement, no emergency contacts documented, no backup caregiver. If one child needed medical care, I wouldn't even have legal authority to make decisions. And if someone reported concerns, it wouldn't be my mother answering those questions. It would be me. When I hung up, my hands were shaking, but my mind felt clear for the first time since that phone call. This wasn't about whether I loved my family. This was about being assigned risk without consent and being expected to smile about it. So I did the one thing I'd never done before. I put it in writing. I drafted an email, careful and calm. No emotion. No accusations. I wrote that I was unable to provide childcare over the holidays, that I had not agreed to guardianship, and that for everyone's protection, alternative arrangements would need to be made. I hit send to my mother and CC'd my sister, my cousin, and the family group email they use for church announcements and baby showers. My phone rang less than 3 minutes later. "What is this?" my mother snapped. "No hello. No softness. Why are you embarrassing me like this?" "I'm not embarrassing you," I said. "I'm documenting that I didn't agree to this." She laughed, sharp and offended. "You're really doing the most. You acting like these are strangers' kids." "I'm acting like 6 minors I didn't consent to care for," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. She went quiet, then switched tactics. "So you're just going to leave everybody stranded? Right before Christmas?" That guilt used to work on me. This time, it didn't land the same. Maybe because I'd already heard the word liability from someone who didn't know me, and still cared enough to warn me. "I'm not leaving anyone stranded," I said. "I'm saying this needs to be handled differently." I hung up before she could raise her voice. That alone felt like crossing a line I'd been taught not to see. An hour later, I forwarded my email to the school counselor listed on one child's emergency contact form, asking for guidance on appropriate childcare arrangements during school breaks. I kept it short, polite, professional. I didn't accuse. I asked for documentation. I didn't expect anything to happen that fast. But by the next afternoon, my sister called me crying. Not sad crying, angry crying. Why is Family Services calling me asking about childcare plans? My heart pounded, but I stayed calm. "Because you listed me as a caregiver without my consent." She went silent. Then, quieter, Ma said you agreed. There it was, the lie wrapped in assumption. By the end of the week, there were meetings, phone calls, official language that didn't bend for family titles. External childcare was mandated. Temporary care plans had to be documented. And my mother received a formal warning that she could not assign guardianship or extended childcare responsibility without consent. She didn't call me for days. Christmas came anyway, just quieter. I stayed home, worked my hours, cooked myself a small dinner, and felt something unfamiliar settle in my chest. Relief. And somewhere between the silence and the paperwork, the power shifted. Permanently. But I didn't know yet how much that record would change everything. I didn't realize how permanent it was until my mother stopped calling me to fix things she used to drop in my lap without warning. The first sign wasn't dramatic. It was just quiet. No early morning text asking if I could just swing by. No last-minute calls about picking somebody up or watching somebody for a few hours. My phone felt lighter somehow, like it wasn't bracing itself anymore. Christmas passed. I worked, rested, binge-watched old shows, made myself a small plate with the foods I actually like instead of the ones you're expected to eat for tradition's sake. I wrapped my hair every night, moved slow, let my body reset. The group chat was oddly stiff. Pictures were shared, but no one tagged me. No wish you were here. Just neutral emojis, like everybody was afraid of saying the wrong thing in writing now. That part mattered more than they realized. Writing. Because once something is documented, it stops being a vibe and starts being a fact. My mother finally called me 3 days after Christmas. Her voice sounded tired, thinner than usual. Not angry, just cautious. "So, you good?" she asked, like we were distant cousins instead of mother and daughter. "I'm fine," I said. And I was. She cleared her throat. "You know they made this whole thing bigger than it needed to be." "They didn't," I said gently. "It was already big. Nobody wanted to look at it." She sighed. "Family don't do each other like that." I didn't jump in. I let the silence stretch. That was new too. Usually I'd rush to smooth it over, reassure her I wasn't mad, wasn't trying to be difficult. But something in me had settled. I wasn't angry. I was done pretending. "What hurt," I said finally, "is that you never asked." She didn't respond right away. I could hear her TV again, some preacher's voice rising and falling in the background. Finally she said, "I didn't think I had to." And there it was, the truth she'd never said out loud before. I was the default, the extra set of hands, the one whose time didn't need permission. "I know," I said. "That's the problem. After that call, things shifted in subtle ways. My sister stopped assuming I'd be available. She started actually asking, with question marks and options. My cousin apologized one afternoon, awkwardly, like she wasn't used to saying the words. I didn't think about how that looked, she said. I'm sorry. I told her thank you and meant it. The biggest change, though, was my mother. She didn't stop being herself. She still had opinions, still liked control, still believed family should bend before anything else. But she hesitated now. You could hear it in her tone. A pause before requests. A carefulness she'd never extended to me before. One afternoon in February, she called and said, I was thinking maybe I should have handled that different. It wasn't an apology, but it was close enough to let me breathe. What surprised me most was how the outside world responded compared to my family. The school counselor emailed me back weeks later, thanking me for advocating appropriately and letting me know my name had been removed as an emergency caregiver going forward. The legal clinic sent a follow-up asking if I needed help setting personal boundaries in writing for future situations. No drama, no guilt, just clarity. At work, I told a coworker what happened in passing. She stared at me and said, I'm proud of you. Not impressed, not entertained. Proud. That word sat warm in my chest all day. There were still moments. Family dinners where the air felt tight. My aunt making jokes like, don't ask her, she'll call the government, followed by that laugh people use when they're testing the room. I smiled politely and kept eating. My cousin raised an eyebrow at her like, relax. Black family humor always rides the line between shade and truth. This time, the truth had backup. By spring, the story had settled into family lore, slightly distorted. Remember when everything got complicated that Christmas? My uncle said once, guarding the grill like it held state secrets. I let him have that version. I didn't need credit. I needed peace. The real payoff wasn't dramatic. No big confrontation. No shouting match where everyone suddenly understood me. It was quieter than that. It was the way my time became mine again. The way my no didn't require a paragraph. The way I stopped feeling like love meant exposure. One night, months later, my mother came by unannounced. Old habits die hard. She brought leftovers, and that look she gets when she wants to talk, but doesn't know how to start. She sat at my table, glanced around my apartment, noticed the calm. You always did like things neat, she said. I like things clear, I corrected gently. She nodded, slow. I see that now. She didn't say much else. She didn't have to. The record existed. The boundary was real. And for the first time, my independence wasn't just financial. It was respected. I used to think standing up for myself would cost me my family. What it actually cost me was being volunteered without consent. And that was a price I was finally okay paying.